It's the go-to place for all things spiritual. You'll discover internet television shows that you won't find anywhere else. You can also choose from hundreds of hours of spiritual documentaries and movies. You'll enjoy on-demand and live internet television programming 24/7. Best of all, we add new dramas, comedies, talk, and reality shows and more on a daily basis. So why spend countless hours searching the web when you can quickly find just what you want on the Spiritual Broadcast Network? Good evening. Welcome to the Spiritual But Not Religious Show. I'm your host, George Lewis. I've got a really great guest tonight with a great topic. We're going to have a good time and hopefully give you some tools that will help you to make your life even better than it might be today. Election day. I hope you voted. I'm not sure how much it makes a difference, from one candidate to the next, but I voted on Sunday. Tom and I are in opposite camps here. Tom Johnson, the engineer. So we the half hour before the show here, we've pretty much gotten the world's, at least this country's, difficulties straightened out, and with our such wise brains. So, at any rate, we'll know sometime in the next. I don't know. You think we'll know tomorrow or tonight who won, or are we going to be dealing with lawyers and chads and all that insanity that we had a few years back? So tonight we're going to talk with Georgina Cannon. Georgina wrote a book called Return Again, and what Georgina does in her book is shows you how you can do your own past life regressions. Very cool, very neat. I've done some past life regression myself over the years, and it's pretty easy to spot once you have some experience who's real and who's not, and Georgina is the real deal. So welcome to the show, Georgina. Are you there with us?
Yes, but I can't hear anything.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. Welcome. I've been looking forward to our chat. Your book is a good read. It's an interesting read, and it's not difficult to read, which makes it really especially good. What is your website before we get started?
GeorginaCannon.com.
GeorginaCannon.com. That's where you can find out all the information about Georgina's book. Before we get talking about your book, Georgina, I'd like to find out a bit about your background. Where were you raised? You were in England. Were you in London or Liverpool or?
London.
Uh-huh.
Born and bred in London, and I worked as a journalist in London. And when I came to Canada, I continued my work as a journalist. And then
let's go back a little bit further. I want to go back to your childhood and some of this. How were you raised spiritually? What was your family?
Jewish background, but not at all religious, because we lived in an area that, in fact, I didn't go into a synagogue or know what being a Jew meant until I was 12 years old, so not at all religious.
Uh-huh.
Spiritual, except we sort of knew that there were fairies at the bottom of the garden, and we knew there was such a thing as ghosts, because growing up in England, you sort of know that.
Right.
We've always known that we are more than we seem. We've always known that there is extra stuff going on, if you like. I just took it for granted. And also, I'm one of those people that saw auras when I was a child.
Oh, really?
So, didn't realize that nobody else did. And it's only when I got to school that I learned to shut it down. I had to shut it down. And then I brought it back again when I got older. And it really helped me in the corporate world to find out when people weren't exactly telling the truth.
Oh, I'm sure it did, yeah. What did you do in the corporate world?
Well, I opened up a PR company here in Toronto, and it grew very well. And then the world's largest PR company called Burson Marsteller came into Canada and wanted to buy me out and made me managing director of the company. So I ended up with 4 offices across Canada, running a very large staff, as you can imagine. And they sent me around the world, literally, to work with people on strategic thinking, and creative marketing, strategic marketing, and working with senior management everywhere, boards of directors, with Holland, Hong Kong, Britain, all across the States. Yeah. So, and even there, it was difficult to work in the corporate world and feel like I was part of it, because I never felt part of it. I always felt like an outsider.
Right.
Partly because I was a woman, but certainly because I could see more than they admitted was going on. And I would always ask the questions they didn't want to face or answer.
Yeah, that's one of the big issues once we start to realize that we're more than just our bodies, and there's more going on than just what's happening in the corporate world.
Yes.
How long have you're not still in that business?
No.
How long have you been out of that business?
I've been doing this work for 17, nearly 18 years now.
Right. Totally different world, isn't it?
Totally different world. I mean, when I think back of what I earned, it's obscene. It was wonderful, but it's an obscene amount of money for what I did. And you can't replace this work. You just can't. It's humbling. It is extraordinary. It's exciting. And it's honoring. It's magical. And my goal in writing the book was to make this information accessible, not to make it woo-woo, because I'm not a woo-woo person at all. If it doesn't work for me, I don't care. I don't want to know. If it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't work, it's a tool, right? So I wanted to make it accessible and help people understand that it was accessible to them so that they could find their magnificence. I mean, that's really my credo. So
this all started for you as far as past life regression. Were you doing any other kind of metaphysical work or any kind of study or anything like that before you got into past life regressions?
Well, when I left the corporate world, I looked around for something to do that made more sense. So I studied Reiki and got my Reiki master. I studied color therapy and aromatherapy. Neither of those sort of hooked onto me. I did some Gestalt therapy training, then discovered hypnosis, and suddenly went, Eureka, this is it. This is amazing, because it's not me doing it to them, it's them. I'm shining the light so they can uncover themselves and empower themselves. And I loved it. So I did that for about a year, and then I realized I could take this into the metaphysical part through the subconscious, and studied with Henry Bolduc, and learned past life, and then did that for a few years, and studied under Michael Newton to do the interlife, or the life between lives.
Right. And what got you into this was migraines, is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us about the migraines. What was going on there? What was the cause, do you think?
Well, when I was studying past life regression, the student I was working with at the time said, "What do you want? What's the goal here?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Why don't we look and see if we can find a cause for migraines?" And we both thought it was, but we thought we'd try. And no sooner had I slipped into hypnosis than I literally had this awful smell. When I think about it now, it makes me cringe even now. It was like rotting flesh. It was disgusting. And I realized it was me. I was stinking. I had filthy hair and no teeth, like mouth was rotting. And I was living in a cage. I was I don't know how old I was, but I was a female woman. And my job was to help the women in the village give birth.
You were like a midwife?
A sort of midwife. That's making it grand. But they didn't want me around because obviously I was a bit of a witch, I guess, as well. And they didn't like that because I gathered herbs. And although they used it, they didn't like it. Let me put it that way. So one day I helped a woman give birth, and it was a son, and the son died in childbirth. And the woman also died. She bled out, because at that time, obviously, we didn't know what to do. So I cleaned it all up and went back to my cave and went to sleep. And I was woken up in the middle of the night by this man standing over me, furious, angry, drunk, and he was beating me. He was knocking me about, and at one point, he picked up a rock and smashed my head with it right here over my left eye, which is where I kept getting my migraines. And I died. That killed me. And the facilitator did all the healing, the process of healing, forgiveness, and allowing and understanding that we do. And I emerged out of that. We both went, wow, that was amazing. And I waited for a migraine, and I haven't had one since.
Well, there's in reading your book, there's another very interesting part of this, and that is, like you're talking about the trauma that your mother inflicted on you, and how she would pound on your head.
Mm.
Tell us about that, if you would. I know you don't blame that, but is that somehow or other play into this past life?
I don't know if it played. It might have played into this life. I mean, knowing what I know now, studying all of the mental illnesses and work that I've done over the past 17, 18 years, I know that she was psychotic. I now know that she was mentally ill.
Right.
We wouldn't have known then. And so she would beat me. She beat me all the time. She would take me by the hair, bang my head on the wall, and throw me down the stairs. I mean, that's what she did. That's how she knew how to release her energy, or herself, I guess.
Right.
And that went on all the way up until the time I was 20.
Oh, wow. You mean you stayed around until you were 20 and allowed that to happen?
I'm terrified of her. Absolutely terrified.
Wow, what power she held, huh?
Oh, immense. And when I came to Canada, her power, and this is hypnosis, her power was so immense that when I got a letter from her and it slipped through my letterbox, as soon as I could see it was an airmail letter from her, I would get hives on my arms.
Yeah, brings back all that old stuff is just sitting there waiting to...
It's the mind-body. That's why hypnosis is so powerful.
Right.
I was in a form of trance then, and didn't realize that the mind-body connection was so strong that once you understand that, then you know you can change it.
Absolutely. And having choice, which is so great, and not have to remain a victim of whether real trauma or some of the stuff that I experienced in my childhood, I'm not sure I experienced at all. So I mean, there was real trauma there alongside of that, but getting all that sorted out has taken years.
Yes. Well, I was certainly in therapy when I learned to have choice, and that's when I learned about why I got the hives.
Right.
I had a wonderful, wonderful psychiatrist, a superb man. And he kept me alive, basically. And he's the one that helped me understand that there's such a thing as choice.
Right.
And when you can choose who you are and how you are every minute of every day, I now pass that on to my clients.
Not only can we, but it's our responsibility, isn't it?
Well, it's our job
to
do that for the soul growth. Otherwise, we have to come back and repeat the same thing again. That
plus coming to this understanding that we're far more than the body, like somewhere along the line, there's a part of some part of me that claims ownership to all these things: spirit, mind, body, all of that. And in that, when I can move into that kind of a viewpoint, things change.
Yes. I had a client today who was blaming everything, including karma. I mean, he came in for past life regression, and when I heard his story and why he came in, I said to him, you've got stuff in this life to do first. You have to deal with this life. Otherwise, you're going to do spiritual bypass, and that's not appropriate if the soul will let you go. And interestingly enough, the soul wouldn't let him go. We tried all different ways of helping him to get there. He couldn't get there because he needs to do this work in this lifetime. He needs to own it. He can't blame karma. He can't blame his wife. He can't blame his father or his mother. He has to own his stuff and work on it.
Well, interestingly enough, it's like when you get into the, like to the metaphysical or even into the psychological, people really want pixie dust. Hit me with the magic wand. I don't want to have to deal with all this stuff.
Right. Well, I call it spiritual bypass, and one of the things I do teach when I teaching past life regression is please don't let your clients do this. It's not going to solve anything, and this is why people go to psychics all the time, because they really think the psychic. I'm not saying that psychics are bad. Don't get me wrong here.
I understand.
But they're using it as an excuse instead of saying, I am the author of this book. I am the owner of this body in this lifetime. How I manage it and what I do with it is up to me.
Absolutely. We really don't want to be responsible. After all, isn't that the basic thing that drugs and alcohol give us, is that, that feeling of not being responsible in the moment that we're, that we're using that drug and alcohol.
I don't know. You're talking to the wrong person. Half a glass of wine and I go to sleep, so I don't know.
Well, there's an escape from responsibility. It's a good night, all. Hey, you use a term called interlife. Tell us, what do you mean by that? Interlife.
Interlife. Some people call it the life between lives. I prefer to call it the interlife. It's the journey, it's the passage in between two past lives. So you come into your lifetime maybe as a carpenter or a sailor or a soldier, and you live that life and you die, and then an eon or a few months or years later you come into another life. But what happens in between? What's that passage in between? That passage in between is when you're pure spirit and pure soul. That's when you find out who you truly are. That's when you find out your true soul purpose, your soul name, and what I call the soul thumbprint, which is a bit of an anomaly because we don't have a body, but it's the truly who you are.
Well, when you say we don't have a body, there are those schools of belief that we have an etheric body. But you believe there's no body whatsoever?
No body whatsoever. I think we're pure energy.
And the energy doesn't take any kind of a form.
It might manifest as light, but certainly when people go into the interlife, their guides come forward, or the people that greet them come forward, often take on a body that they will recognize so they feel comfortable in it.
Uh-huh.
And with it. And they might take on the role, or these people that greet them might take on the role of Jesus or Mother Mary or a guardian angel. Someone said it's a Raphaelite angel with big wings, or Buddha, or a beloved grandparent. They just because the soul, those souls want you to feel comfortable and not in awe or not in shock, so that you can relate and allow your heart to open and just accept.
Okay, there isn't just one plane available to us in this interlife, is there? You talk about 7 planes of existence. Does that depend on the vibration you leave with?
Well, that's slightly different. Yes, the interlife is really the place that you take off your coat. You take off the body, and then you go home. And home can be another dimension. Home can be another planet. Home, for instance, about a month ago, I had a young man who came in, and he was doing interlife. He'd previously done past lives, and instead of going the usual route, he left this plane, this earthly plane, and found himself in water. He said it was like water. It was a little more thick, he said. I guess he meant viscous, but it was a bit thicker than water. And he was humanoid, and the people around him were humans. The difference was that they all worked together as community. They all, their role was to develop new ways of thinking and new ways of being and new understandings as community. And when I asked him how they ate or how they lived, well, they didn't eat and they didn't die. They just dissolved back into the water. And when they were born, they emerged from the water. Now, this is an entirely different dimension. I've never read anything like this. I've never heard anything like this before. But for him, it was very, very real. And what it did for him, it heightened his sense of community. It made him really want to be involved at different levels, not only with his family, which was extensive, and he'd been fighting to leave that. He felt it was claustrophobic. But to get involved in his community, in his town, and be part of, not society, but part of humanity.
Well, when you think about the numbers, even science has come to a place where they believe there are 11 dimensions. And there's definitely, in my mind, far more than that. And you look at the size of our universe, and that there are actually millions of universes. Our self-centeredness, I think, kind of keeps us a bit limited, doesn't it, as far as...
we have the questions to ask. We have no concept of the questions to ask.
Exactly.
The word dimensions is limiting, right?
Right.
So is time, so is all of this. We have no idea. We are so small and infinitesimally ignorant. It's not that we're ignorant, it's just that we're... Did you ever see the movie Ants? It reminds me of ants. You know, we in that world that they lived in, it was their universe. But as you pulled back, as the camera pulled back, you realized it was a puddle.
Right. Very, very small.
Very small.
Yeah, and then there's this story, I forget who wrote it, about the, maybe it was Socrates or Plato, about the stick figures on a two-dimensional plane can't see shadows.
Right.
I've been able to resolve this in my own mind and be able to stay open just by understanding that it really is a mystery. And I'm okay with the fact that it's a mystery, and I just really work at trying to find my way within that mystery to make my life and the life of the people around me to make it better.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm probably a little more pragmatic. I probably want to focus more on the client issue or the book focus to bring movement forward. I'm in one of my clients. I helped her recover her name, and that was a story that was in Michael Newton's book.
Uh-huh.
That she'd forgotten who she was totally. From the age of 17, she didn't know who she was. And when I was speaking to Shirley MacLaine, she kept saying to me, "But don't you want to know what happened to her?" And I said, "It doesn't matter whether I want to know or not. What matters is does she want to tell me."
Right.
Because she's my client.
Right. It's not about you, it's about her.
And it's the same with the people who've been abducted. My role is to help them feel comfortable and release any fear or whatever it is they've come for. It's not to explore the planets they went to out of curiosity. Not my job.
So when you talk about abducted, you're talking about alien abduction.
Yes.
Do you get a lot of that?
I get some of it. A lot of it I refer out to a colleague who does a lot of it.
Uh-huh.
She's one of my ex-students, and she decided that's where she wants to go, and she's fascinated by it, and she does a lot of it. Yes, she does.
So tell us about the idea, and this idea has been around for a long time, about choosing our lives before being born. Part of what you said was that the soul isn't always, not necessarily at conception, and can actually happen sometime down the road, immediately after birth or at that point. Talk about how we set all this up. And do we set it up, or is it just kind of foisted upon us?
No, I think we set it up. However, I do want to make very clear that this is not empirical evidence. There's no empirical evidence around this. This is clinical evidence. This is evidence from my various readings and discussions with other people who also do this type of work. But it's from the clinic, it's from other people's clinic work as well. So that's all we know. I mean, we're not God. We don't know exactly when the soul does come in.
Well, this stuff's been around a long time, and if you look at the origins of Scientology, it really all came out of past life regressions with L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but that's where all that came from.
Yes.
Regardless of what it's turned into now, he was a really bright guy and a pioneer in that whole area.
Listen, he must be a very bright guy, otherwise he couldn't have built that empire that he did.
Well, you know why it became a religion was because he tried to get out of this country. They were taxing the heck out of him, so it's like turned it into a religion. But at any rate, it's gone. That's not anything we need to talk about at this point. So okay, this isn't empirical evidence, but why did you choose the life that you chose this time? Do you know?
Yes, I had some victim issues to get over.
Was that from your mother, or was there more?
Oh, in previous lifetimes.
Okay.
But this is how it manifested in this lifetime. So I had to learn to own myself and learn to find my own light and have boundaries and all of those things that happen so that you don't become a victim again.
Right.
So that's the lesson I had to learn in this lifetime. But my thumbprint my thumbprint, my soul thumbprint.
Right.
Teacher. So even when I was being a journalist or in PR, I would always be in some way educating my clients, in some way, and I didn't realize it was a pattern until this came up. And so it's very natural for me to teach, very natural. And I've always had people, even when I was running the company, I always took in young students and helped them learn the business.
So you're a natural mentor, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's that's that servant kind of attitude, which is really important.
Yes, it is. It is. I believe that as we absorb wisdom and knowledge, it's our duty, it's our obligation to pass it on.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Be the channel through which it flows.
Well, what I've discovered on this path is that, you really can't teach this from the pulpit. It's like, I mean, there's a certain amount that can be, but down in the trenches, it's got to go one-on-one.
Yes.
Like what you're doing. It's like it just, this wisdom, the experience, all that has to be generated one-on-one before it really becomes a part of the student.
Yes. And that's why the book has to be accessible. That's exactly why. I didn't want it to come out like a know-it-all, a high tomb of knowledge, I wanted it to be very accessible, and I wanted it to be interactive, which is why I have the integration piece in there, and why I have at the end of each chapter, well, think about that. How does that affect you? I wanted it to be, a conversation, if you like.
And very personalized.
Yes.
One of the things that I found out in my own past life regressions, and I think there's a certain amount of, are we really catching past lives, or are we in our imagination or in our grandiosity? As I noticed that you didn't have any, the past life you contacted was not the kind of life you'd really want to contact.
Most of them aren't.
No, very mundane. Matter of fact, the first one I really got back to, I was a kind of, I don't know if Polynesian is the right word, but I was a native with a big old pot belly, and I'd clubbed my wife to death. And, it's not the kind of thing you want to come back with out of a regression session,
What did you learn from that?
Well, what I learned from that is about my two things, about several things. One, about my own self-centeredness, and about my own anger, and and that's basically the biggest thing I learned from it.
Okay. Because the whole point, I believe, of taking a past life regression is to take the wisdom and the learning. And I say to the client, it doesn't matter what color your shoes are. It doesn't matter how you were dressed, really. I mean, it's nice to know.
Right.
But that's not the point of it. The point of it is to gain the wisdom and understanding.
Yeah. What was the quality of my of who I was? Well, how did I? Actually, it gets down to being, doesn't it?
Well, the goal is to make this life, this current life, richer.
Right.
And more profound. So any tool that you can use to do that, and this is a tool, any tool that you can use to do that. So when I get attacked by the media or people who say, oh, well, of course I'm a cynic. I mean, how do you know it's real? How do you know that it really exists? And my answer to that is always, it really doesn't matter. Even if it's a metaphor that your mind is giving you, what difference does it make as long as you have the information?
Well, if the healing is there, that's the deal. If it changes our life to the better, then, like you say, it doesn't matter whether it's real or not.
It doesn't matter what you call it.
Well, and the truth is, we don't know, and there's, really more proof of this today. We don't know if what we call reality isn't nothing but imagined anyhow.
Well, yeah, everything's a hologram.
Exactly. So it's like this whole idea of reality is interesting. So you talk about, one of the things you say is that, these 7 levels that, the question is, do all souls eventually go to all levels? And you suggest that they don't? In other words, there isn't a progression?
No, not really. I think like anything, sometimes people stay where they are. Sometimes they jump a few levels. I don't. I don't think everything's as orderly as we like to think it is.
Boy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. And yeah, and if you look at any person who looks at their own life will realize that as orderly as we try and make it, it isn't. There's too many outside events, too many things that are left to chance, I think.
Also, we are not orderly in our thinking.
Right.
We like to think we are, but some days we wake up and just decide to go to work a different way, just because.
Well, yeah, not only that, but we also have to account for the intuitive thought.
Yes.
That just totally changes our direction, changes everything about us, and that happens in a flash or just a moment.
Yeah, indeed. Yes.
So, what is the role of karma?
The role of karma is to enable you to find your light, to help you repair any damage that's been done to yourself or to others. When I say damage, I mean mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, whatever. And give you a chance to move yourself towards the light, towards the isness, the one light. So that if you... let's start from the beginning. I believe that every single person is everything. I believe we're all smart, we're all stupid. I believe we're all kind and unkind. I believe that we are all insightful and all boorish. And I truly believe, that every day the piece we choose to use of ourselves makes us who we are.
Uh-huh.
Because we have all of that to choose from. And, even Hitler loved his wife, his mistress, and his dog. So, and the smartest person can do some stupid things. So the piece we choose to use makes our karma. And not only physically, physical behavior, but how we think and how we speak. Everything we touch, of course, we leave our energy behind. So if I touch my little aquarium here and my telephone here, I'm leaving the energy behind. So if it's good, with a good thought and a kind thought, then that builds the karma. And we really are the authors of our life and many lives. So if that's the point of taking past life journeys, is that you can see where you've been, and you can say to yourself, do I want to continue like this? Is this something I really want to be forever? Do I want to be a bully? Do I want to be someone who is emotionally distant because it's safe? And if you do, fine, then know that. Do I want to be a victim? Do fine, then no. But you can't unknow that information, which is really interesting from a past life. You can never unknow what you've learned.
So what you're talking about is whatever you're doing, be conscious.
Be conscious. Be aware. Yes.
So you one of the things you say, and I couldn't agree with this more, although there are people who believe they do. You suggest that there's no one on the planet that's got the whole deal, that knows it, knows it all. I believe is the way you as far as the afterlife, the interlife, all of that, spirituality. Is that how you feel?
How can we possibly know it all?
Well, it's pretty arrogant to think that we can, isn't it?
Well, I think it goes beyond arrogance. I think it diminishes our awareness of the limitations of our own mind, our own brain, and our own world. We only know this world. We only know what we see in this world and our way of connecting to other worlds. But again, it's a very singular way. It's our way. So how can we possibly know everything?
Back to the puddle and the ant colony, right?
Exactly.
Same concept.
Exactly. There's no way we can possibly know it all.
So, you suggest that there's a pretty elaborate plan created before we incarnate. Did I read that right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, tell us how this comes about, and it seems to me if there's an elaborate plan, there's some difficulty with all the people that that come into our lives, the events that go into our lives. When are you talking about generalities, or are you talking about very specifics?
Both. I'm talking about when we plan to come into this world, we choose our parents.
Uh-huh.
Choose our parents because they will help us. And if the parents are people who give us up or whatever, we chose that on purpose, they will help us achieve our soul goal.
Right.
And it's the same with the life we choose. So,
Well, I understand that, but when you say plan, so what you're still, as you just expressed it, you're talking kind of in generalities. Yeah, because this happened to me, it will help me in this other area. Am I right?
So when you plan to come in, your soul, you're planning from a soul level. So you're planning, this is my soul purpose. So to achieve my soul purpose in this life, I need an environment that will allow me or give me the opportunity to choose to accomplish my soul purpose.
Okay, I understand. I understand what, where you're coming from with that. So let's talk about death a little bit. You suggest that what we state we call death, we probably are very confused about what that is.
Yes, because I think people think of it as sort of the light going out, as a closure, when in fact it's not going out. It's just turning into something different. And I equate it to water, because to me that's the best simile that I can think of. Because when water changes form, it becomes steam.
Right.
Or snow in Canada.
Yes, very much. You're headed in that direction too, aren't you?
Yes. Let's not talk about that.
I understand. Down here we're in Sarasota, Florida, so.
Sarasota is one of my favorite towns.
Oh, you get down here again, you'll have to look me up. We'll have coffee and chat.
Oh, I love it. Last time I was down, there was an artist fair down there, and it was just lovely.
That's great, isn't it? It's good. Yeah, good.
Yeah, just down there in Sarasota. It's really nice. So you manifest differently, but the molecule is still the same. The water molecule is still the same. Just your appearance is different.
Right. And in the as I've come to understand this in my own life, what I believe causes me to have a particular viewpoint, which causes me to behave in a particular way and causes my experience.
Sure.
As I change that, my viewpoint, my vibration also changes. And at some point, I'm going to leave here with that particular vibration. And I probably will go wherever that vibration goes. Is that kind of what you're talking about here?
No. Well, maybe it is, but I don't feel it's that way. As we become more aware, this is old thinking now, because let's consider something else. The new kids that have been coming in for the last few years already come in with a different vibration.
Right.
Different DNA structure. So they're way ahead of us anyway. Right? So I believe that as our vibration increases, it just means, and it's very simple, it just means that we're reconnecting easier with the part of us that we've left behind in the interlife. Because we leave a part of us in the interlife, a part of our energy.
And what's the purpose of that?
So that we can go home and reconnect.
So we leave an anchor in the interlife.
Yeah, that's the permanence. This is the temporary.
Uh-huh. So...
That's the real one. This is the temporary one.
Okay.
This is the cool.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
Okay.
So let's talk about the power and importance of perspective. It's one of the things towards the middle or end of your book, you talk about the importance of perspective.
Well, perspective is we see what we look for. In fact, I had a laugh this afternoon because I was out getting winter boots, and I don't care things like that. And I suddenly started looking at people's feet and saying, "Oh, look at those boots! Or look at those boots! Or look at those!" And that's what we do. We see what we look for, Is that what you mean by perspective?
I don't know. I'm talking really about the way you talk about it in the book, and you talked about. As a matter of fact, I think you have it's either a chapter or subchapter or chapter in the book about power, the importance of perspective. I happen to think it's hugely important. So I was very much in agreement with you. My perspective really sets everything in this earth plane as far as my experience and so forth.
Yes. So it's this whole thing about heaven and hell. Is that what you're talking about? Are we making our life a heaven or a hell?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking. And we have a choice there.
We have a choice, but again, it's to do with what we look for. So if we're always looking for kindness, then that's what we see. We might see unkindness, but we don't focus on it as much. I had a woman come into the clinic a few months ago, and she came in full of vitriol. Men are just this, and if it wasn't for men, we wouldn't have wars, and this, and it was all about men. It's about blaming. And I said to her, we're going to work on this in two ways, because you're not going to have any relationships if you have this point of view.
It's going to be hard, that's for sure.
Yeah. Huh. So I asked her if she was a lesbian, and she said no. So I thought, well, then that really does cut down her opportunity for love if she's not going to have one thing or the other.
Right.
So she said, so I said to her, would you take care of the conscious and allow me to work on the subconscious? So she said yes. So we agreed that she would start writing down every day at least 5 things that she saw that men did that were good, whether she read it in the papers or saw it on television or on the street. And I would work with her on a subconscious and go back to the very beginning of time where that limiting decision that she had was formed. And within 3 days, she found a difference. She phoned me and she said, I can't believe this. I read in the paper that a firefighter climbed a tree and rescued a kitten. I can't believe it. And she was literally saying, I can't believe. It's all about perspective, because we see what we look for.
So how does perspective affect our karma?
Because if we don't understand that we are making our choices according to our perspective, then we will keep going down the same pathway.
Absolutely. One of the things I decided several years ago was that very thing, it's like I really want to be treated with kindness. And if karma is at all, and what goes around comes around, is at all active, if I started being as kind as I could in my thought, word, and deed, that at some point, the majority of what's going to be coming my way is going to be exactly that.
Right. And kind to yourself, too.
Well, that covers everything. It's not, that I think is kind of the starting place, isn't it? Being kind with self, because you can only give away what you have, really. If I'm beating myself up every day, I'm not going to give much to you that's of any real consequence.
No, absolutely. Yes, we have to start here and allow the energy of that, the overflow of that, to move out. This is not being self-indulgent. It's not being selfish. It's being smart.
Well, yeah, it's taking responsibility, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
For self. Well, one of the things that you talk about as we start to get this new perspective, these new understandings, and that we change, that we come to a place where we really need to introduce ourselves. Give us a little. We're kind of running short on time, but give us a brief idea of what that means for you.
I mean, reintroduce our new self into our environment.
Yes.
Yes. Well, one of the things that happens when you work with hypnosis is that people make radical change. And when they make radical change, they become a born again.
Yes.
So if they lose a lot of weight, suddenly they're going around telling everybody what they should eat and how they should eat and how they should exercise. And, of course, that alienates everybody around them, and they don't understand why nobody's listening to them or taking their advice. And it's never worse than someone who is a born-again spiritual person. They are inclined to go around and saying, well, of course, you really don't understand. And it's a different voice as well. You really don't understand.
The whole demeanor becomes pretty,
Yes.
Nothing quite like spiritual arrogance, is there?
And if you really, if you were really kind and understood the greater self. And they become very patronizing. They also are inclined to go home and throw the baby out with the bathwater, get rid of the job, change their friends, and do everything, boom, just like that. And I say, don't do that. Hold on. Let's do some exercises first so that you can see how to have an evolution rather than a revolution. Evolve, bringing this into your being so that people can see how you change, and they'll say to you, what happened? You look so much happier. Then you can tell them.
So you're talking about teaching by example, and that certainly is the best way to teach, isn't it?
Exactly. So at the back of the book, the integration piece is very important, I believe, because that allows people to continue to live a life, but in an enriched way.
Tell you what, we've got a couple of 3 minutes left. What you want to expand on that, or have we missed something that you really would like to get to talk about at this point?
I really would like to help people understand is that inside everyone is a light, and I don't care if it's a person on the street who's homeless, or the CEO that's nasty, or these campaigners that are going on right now. Inside is a light, and inside there is magnificence. And I believe it's our responsibility to discover and uncover our magnificence. And with care and attention and decision, everyone can do that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I certainly hope that plenty of people pick your book up, read this, and begin to understand their own magnificence, because the world will become a much better place to live if they do. Georgina's book is Return Again. And can they buy it on your website? I know they can get it in the bookstores, but do you sell it also?
No, not yet. I might in the new year, but right now the publisher has advised that we go through the bookstores and through Amazon, and I'm happy to do as the publisher says.
Okay, absolutely. Is there also a digital version out there, or just the soft copy?
You can Kindle it.
Okay, great. So it's all out there. Return Again. Georgina, I have really enjoyed our conversation. You couldn't see it, but I've been showing your book as I talked about it also. So, absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a good read. Be sure and pick it up. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me tonight. I've had a great time with you. You're a fantastic lady.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Have a good night, Georgina. Well, that was a good conversation. To be able to not have to have a third party or a second party help you with past life regression, to really be able to get down to some of this stuff yourself, this is the book to get. It'll help you. If you've never done past life regression, it'll guide you through the whole process. So I really recommend it. We've got a great guest coming up next week, so be sure and come back with us. And in the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week. Be sure to hop on over to the Spiritual Broadcast Network. It's the go-to place for all things spiritual. You'll discover internet television shows that you won't find anywhere else. You can also choose from hundreds of hours of spiritual documentaries and movies. You'll enjoy on-demand and live internet television programming 24/7. Best of all, we add new dramas, comedies, talk, and reality shows and more on a daily basis. So why spend countless hours searching the web when you can quickly find just what you want on the Spiritual Broadcast Network?